Cool. So will I show up right away or will it be a minute?
Yeah, you're going to be out for a second. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Relic Room for another of Gone Digging Live from the Relic Room. Really excited this evening. We are doing a bunch of different stuff, so bear with me if there's any buffering. Our stream health looks okay right now, but who's to say, because we're really trying to push the envelope quite a bit. So with that said, I hope everybody had a good week of out metal detecting. I hope everybody found some cool bucket listers and stuff like that. I had a great week with Jamie Henley, who's here in the chat. No volume, no volume.
I hear
Are we
you
good on
on
the?
our.
Are we good on volume, everybody? Sounds fine here. Cool. All right. So. Jamie, turn your volume up. So this week I had a great week. I got out with Jamie Henley. Everything. We had a great time out with the GPX as a kind of precursory to Diggin in Virginia. And check this out. Boom. Knocked one off my bucket list this week. I had a had a really high tone on the GPX and out popped that little beauty, a nice 1830 cap bus half dime. So we had a lot of fun, a lot of good signals, some really great time in between the rain showers and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited about Cat Bust Half Dime. Before we get too much farther, here's what we're gonna do. The Virginia Diggers Facebook group had a giveaway, and I hope you guys were able to get out and check out that that really awesome video I did of the meetup. It was a lot of fun, great food. But one of the guys wanted to offer up a raffle. You had to post a picture on the group and a number of 1 to 5,000, and you were entered in to win a set of Garrett Z-Link wireless headphone system to take a Garrett or any other metal detector and make your headphones wireless. So what we're going to do is we are going to do that giveaway right now. So I figured out how to do all of this fun stuff, and check this out. Let's see if this works. There we go. All right, so we have ourselves a random number generator. The 1 to 5,000 is set. So if you posted a comment and a picture and a number on Virginia Diggers, you will get to win a chance at the Garrett Z-Link. I tell you what, send me a message. I'll let the guys sort it out, but here we go. You ready? 1, 2, 3, boom. So if you guessed 31, 34, or you were closest without going over, you have won yourself a Garrett Z-Link. If somebody comes back and puts that comment in the description and lets me know that who won, that would be cool. I'm going to write this number down so I don't forget it, and we will be good to go. So there we go. Got that out of the way. That is really awesome. I hope that didn't jack up my volume at all. I hope you guys can still hear me. So there we go. So before without any further ado, let's send it now. Let's go through real quick who we have in the chat. Darnell, hello, Williams, Longest Howl, Kent Rwandi is here. Jared from Mass is here. Plugmaster Ford, as always, Iffy Signals. Sift and Shovel Relics. John Aiken, Jamie Henley, Virginia Metal Detecting. Old Dominion Diggers. We've got 19 hanging out for the live stream. But for tonight, our guest is Tony Hochstetler. A lot of guys know Tony from his DIV and GPX videos. They're absolutely incredible, tons of information. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get Tony in here. Hey, Tony, how we doing?
What's up, man?
I'm glad to see you out this evening, man. This is awesome. I'm so glad to have you on the show. I've been wanting to have you on for a while.
Absolutely, man. Glad to do it.
So obviously, I mean, a lot of folks know you from DIVs, which is Diggin in Virginia. For the guys in the chat who don't know, it's an organized relic hunt held most of the time twice a year here in Virginia. And I mean, how many DIVs have you been to?
Let's see. This is coming up on 43, so 30. Wait a minute. Man, I'll have to do some numbers. What DIV's coming up? I don't even know.
44, maybe? 45?
So I've been to 35. I've been to 30. I've been to 32. I think it is 32 or 33 digs.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's crazy to stop. I'm just thinking about how many days that is just by itself. That's like, I guess that's like 90 days of digging.
Yeah. Oh, if you've been to 32, that's you're only after this one you'll knock down 100 days of organized relic hunting. That's pretty. I mean, like that's incredible. That's over a third of the year has been spent just relic hunting. That's awesome. I'd love to know the number of holes that was involved in that.
And how big some of them were. How many pounds of dirt.
So you're known as the Badger, right?
Yeah, that was Don Eccles came up with that. We were digging at a permission site I've got in Culpeper, and he said, "Tony, you look like a badger with all the dirt flying out of the hole," and that just stuck.
So before all the DIVs, let's start back to how did you get into metal detecting?
So I was working at the fire station with a friend of mine named Shane Mazzell, and got to talking about metal detecting, and it's something I always wanted to do. I think most, you know, people growing up, like when they're kids, kind of dream about that, finding treasure and all that. And he said, "Well, let's just go." And I said, "Say when? Let's do it." So we just said, "All right, how about 3 weeks from now?" And so we invited another friend of mine, Louis Smith, who was also a firefighter. Well, it turns out my buddy Shane ended up not being able to go, but Louis and I went. Didn't find a darn thing. I mean, found absolutely zero cool stuff. Even though we were in some decent spots, just didn't know anything. Well, Louis goes home, and it had started to rain. It was like 45 degrees and raining. And I was so enthralled with the idea of finding something that I just stayed out. I actually had a borrowed bounty hunter, and I think I found some parts off of like a wagon that day. It's a miracle I didn't get sick. I may have, but it was like really horrible weather. I remember there was water on the bounty hunter. You have the housing comes up past the display, and the water was sloshing around in that. I don't know how it didn't turn off, but it didn't. And so I went out the next day. It was I think it was the very next day I went out and had gotten permission for a tiny little lot on the Battle of Cumberland Church. And I knew there was relics there. And there was also an 1880s narrow gauge railroad going through there. And I was on top of a house site from like the 40s or 50s. And so I'm digging nail after nail after nail. And then I dig a narrow gauge railroad spike, like 10 of them. And I got another signal, and here comes another spike, but it was a bayonet.
Oh my God.
And it was missing the socket, but I feel like it was probably damaged in battle. May or may not have been, but it was just super freaking cool, man. And I was hooked. And then I think 2 or 3 days later.
Was that your first true relic?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Was basically the blade of a bayonet?
Yeah. It was the blade and then came down on the hook.
Oh my God.
I've got it here somewhere. And then my second relic was 2 days later, and that was a U.S. box plate. And the only reason I found just the box plate is because the machine wouldn't pick up the bullets. I didn't know the machine. It wasn't very powerful.
Oh my gosh. So obviously you went back with another machine other than, so you started metal detecting without even owning a metal detector.
Right on. Yep.
Yeah. Right on. That's cool, man. That's awesome. Do you, So you started without a metal detector. So what was your first machine you bought?
White's MXT.
And was that like a big purchase? Did you know anything about it? The MXT was a killer machine for relics.
Yeah, the only thing that I knew about it was I had joined the mytreasurespot.com forum by then because I gotten interested in Diggin in Virginia events, and everybody on there. And actually, I guess by then I had been picked to go to the fall hunt, which was DIV 10, and that was, I think we're coming up on 11 years now. Anyway, it would have been like, let's see, 07 or 08. And everybody on the forum said MXT was the best machine for hot soil, which at the time it was. That's pretty amazing to think of that now, And so I got it for that, and I knew it would also work in good ground where we were at. And I dug a lot of relics with that machine.
So you got picked for DIV 10, and where was that hunt at?
That was the west side of Brandy Rock.
So it was when Brandy Rock was divided in half.
More or less. See, DIV 9 was also at Brandy Rock, but it would be the east side, like where headquarters normally is. Well, I say normally. It would be like the east side. I would consider the doctor's house, the pond, the bean field, and all that. The western side would be Wisconsin Hill, the Fingers, the barn, which the barn's gone, I think, and the silos too, maybe. The silos, of course, Button Hill, and the Hazel River. I guess the Hazel kind of runs east-west through the whole thing, though.
So, so what was your first experience going? I mean, so I guess what was the time period between you starting relic hunting and you going to a DIV? Was it like months or was it a year or?
It was about 6 months. I think I started relic hunting in March or April of that year. I think it was '07 or '08. It was one of those two. And then the fall hunt was probably October 20 or 30, somewhere in there. Yeah, so it's probably 6 months. Yeah.
6 months, and that was a different. I mean, that was pretty new into the whole idea of an organized relic hunt.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the reason I went to that is my buddy Louis Smith. He had recommended the treasure spot in Diggin in Virginia, and I just saw that and got interested, signed up, and messaged back and forth with John Kendrick a little bit, and he gave me some advice, and it went from there.
So in the early days, you'd take a VLF machine, whether it was a MXT. I mean, guys were hunting with MineLab Safaris then.
Oh yeah.
Some of the old Fisher with like the M scopes and the 1266s, blue and grays by whites.
Blue and gray was a good machine. It still is a good machine up there as far as VLF goes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, it's still top notch.
Yeah.
So did
I never knew of anything that had the reputation that the White's machines did as far as VLF detectors in hot soil. Um, I know that the F-75 did decent because there's some videos with Sal Guttiso using it, and he did pretty good. But man, I mean, if you're missing stuff, you don't know what you're missing, so you can't really say for sure how good it is until you find out that the next technology is doing better, and then you're like, oh my gosh, you know.
so fast forward a few years, and you move into the PIs. And when was the first time you saw a GPX or a pulse induction machine at an organized hunt?
Actually, the first time I saw a pulse induction was a TDI, and that was at DIV 10. Tom Homan and I think one other guy, maybe Tex Kinsey, each of them had, I think, prototypes. I don't think they were even in production then. And the way that Button Hill got its name was Tom Homan was on Button Hill with a TDI, and I came out from the bottom by the Hazel River and came up the hill, and there was about 10 people watching Tom dig like 30 buttons from one hole. And you could tell that they'd been in a fire, and he was just digging eagle button, eagle button, eagle button. He finally got tired of it and just walked away. And everybody that was around him was just in awe, as was I. And I made the decision right then and there that I was going to own one. So by DIV, let's see, I think DIV 12, I had my first TDI with like $1,700.
Wow, wow. And,
Yeah.
and for the folks that don't know about Diggin in Virginia, and specifically what we're talking about is metal detecting in the heavily occupied winter camps of basically some very early or very late 1861, if you're really lucky, but most of you're looking at 62 and heavy 63, right?
Yeah. 63, 64 is what we hunted around. Like all the 6 core camps we hunted around Brandy Rock Farm and Brandy Station, Beauregard, and those are 63, 64.
Okay. So maybe a little more towards 1860, the very, very sporadic 1862, and that would have been more towards Confederate troops and things like that.
You're talking about the 1862 would be more Confederate leaning. I think there was a significant amount of Confederate movement, through those areas. But I think in those time frames that you're talking about, that the main occupation, really for both sides, the main occupation, as I understand it, would have been 63 to 64, particularly the Union winter camp.
So, but regardless, you're talking about a massive amount of troops that just sat down drank whiskey, and
Oh,
marched and fired and
you
ate.
know, I, that just saying that reminds me. It just to me, it's always been amazing how much stuff. I mean, just the sheer volume of material that they just left. That is just still boggles my mind to this day. You know, we've hunted farms that have been pounded for 60 years over there, and they're still giving up surface relics. You know,
Yeah.
it's just
It,
insane.
and you look at like some of the battlefield sites, and even some like look at what the guys are in England are doing. They're going to the same
Yeah,
fields that produce Roman coins, and they're finding more and more and more coins or brooches or whatever items they are. It's just really
it'll never
incredible to
all
me
be.
that there's so much stuff there.
Yeah, it'll never all be found. And I, that's one thing. Becoming a relic hunter in 2008. A lot of the what we're going to call old timers, they were, by then they thought everything was more or less gone. There was a guy that I hunted with for a while, and he had kind of gotten sort of out of it. He wasn't as excited about it anymore because you were just finding so little. Um, but I had to develop the attitude of, okay, this place has been hunted to death. How am I going to hunt differently than the previous 20 guys that have been here? Am I going to have to dig out, a ton of iron, hunt much closer to the fence, much closer to power lines? Am I going to have to turn trees over, down trees and stuff like that? You just have to think way outside the box. And for me, the main part of thinking outside the box today is depth. It's just there's way more deep stuff than we realize. Way more.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and that makes a lot of sense for guys across the board. If you metal detect, if you're not thinking how other people didn't think or how they didn't hunt, whether you hunt parks or playgrounds or whatever it is that you do, if you are not thinking outside the box, you're gonna just stay in the same pattern everybody else was, and you're not gonna find that coin on edge or that bullet a little bit deeper, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that's right on.
you know so moving through the years, the introduction of the MindLab GPX, which has been basically ruled the roost around I would say these winter camps.
Oh, totally. And the funny thing was, the GP series before GPXs, it was doing the same thing. I mean, you can get I think it's called a GP 3500, and it was doing the same things, and it was out. Shoot, it might have been out before the TDI. And somehow somebody, I want to say that probably started at DIB. It was John Hawkins or somebody had one, and they were just digging phenomenal, getting phenomenal depth, and to the point where people really weren't believing, that it was happening. And that started to catch on little by little. We went through a big TDI phase first. I mean, everybody was like, "There's no way I'm." They had a hard time spending $700 to $1,800, $2,000 on a GP, or excuse me, a TDI. And then when the GPXs came along, I got mine for $3,500. I basically did it on layaway, $3,500, $500 payments, and that was a heck of a deal. Like that was just above, you know, well, I thought it was just above like dealer cost. I don't know what dealer cost was, but most people were paying $5,000 for them at
The
the time.
yeah, and even myself, when I even considered wanting to go, just a few years ago, I mean, 2011, 2012, they were still $4,300 for the 4500s prior to their re-release.
What about 5,000s? What are they running?
Yeah, they were. I think they were pretty close. If it was a 4500, it was $4,500. If it was a 5000, it was $5,000.
Yeah. I do remember that. You're right.
You know,
That's insane.
It's absolutely incredible. For the guys in the chat who are hanging out watching, if you guys have any questions about any of the pulse induction or hunt in the winter camps, anything like that, or just anything for Tony, please throw it in the chat and we'll get to them as they come. Right now we've got 35 folks hanging out with us tonight, Tony, so that's really awesome.
Awesome. Cool.
So when when you got a GPX and when you figured out deep, like how did you figure out huts and moving into huts and pits? Now I know some of the earlier DIVs had like the corduroy road, and there were huts that had been found and dug.
Yeah.
But what led you into learning huts?
There was okay. So if you go back to DIV, so DIV 10 was my first dig. DIV 11 was at Coles Hill, and I saw a lot of people open up pits there. In fact, I remember Chris Mangano and myself digging a test hole in the latrine area. So there was interest early on, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning, and then I remember at DIV 13, I was using a TDI, and we were wearing it out too. It was right there by the doctor's house at Brandy Rock Farm, digging a ton of buttons, and one of the signals led me down into some ash and glass, and so there was I'm trying to remember the name. There was a guy from Texas. It was two brothers from Texas. One was skinny and one was not so skinny, and I'm trying to remember their names. But anyway, he had some experience with that, and I just asked for his advice. And then there was another gentleman, and they showed me everything to do. They stood right there with me and just hung out and said, okay, I would dig here. I would go slower. This is where you need to put the dirt. No, you're not done with that wall because you can still see ash or whatever. And I ended up digging out a nice little trash pit and got, I think, a couple candle holders. The coolest thing that came out of that was a little spectacle. It was either for binoculars or eyeglasses. And I just thought, man, that is so cool. It was in two pieces, but it was there. But, so I kind of started to realize that there's a whole lot, that we don't know, that's lying beneath the surface, quite literally. But it really took me until, I would say, I didn't really like pit digging for a couple years after that because it was so much work compared to what I thought was the return. Because I ran into a couple of pits that just didn't produce much. And that can be pretty discouraging. If you dig an almost empty hut, you'll be like, darn it, I spent 5 hours digging this thing out, to get 2 eagle buttons and some broken glass, and some bricks. Now I've got to fill it all back in. I could have found 10 eagle buttons in the same amount of time. Right. But what I did for myself is the attitude that I had to maintain was the pit or the hut itself is the relic. And once you're in it, then you've made it. That's it. That's same. It should be the same as finding 10 bullets or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's the relic.
Right. The relic is excavating a feature that a soldier once stood and slept in and spent a whole winter of his life in.
Exactly. That's the closest thing we can get to actually being with the soldiers, if that makes sense. Like, really what we're doing when we're looking for historical relics, we're trying to go back in time. That's the closest you can get. It doesn't get any better,
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes the most sense, whether it's, especially if you're looking for historical stuff. That's the best way to, I think, to explain it to anybody who probably wouldn't understand it, So it's pretty pretty awesome. Somebody asked, so real quick, what would be just quick first timer advice for going to an organized hunt like this?
First of all, can you still hear me well?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. My brother was trying to call me, and I want to make sure my volume was fine. So and for some reason, I'm having trouble hearing you. I can hear you, but it's quite quiet.
All right. I tell you what, I will bump your audio up just a little bit. Yeah. There we go. All right, cool.
I
So
gotcha.
we've actually got 40 folks hanging out with us this evening. That is absolutely
Nice.
awesome.
Sweet.
Nugget Shooter Journals, Bill Southern from Arizona's here. K. What, The Life and Times of Barney Taylor. Miss Diggin Canuck herself, Liz is hanging out. Colonial Fiend. So yeah, absolutely awesome. Um,
Nice.
so real quick, just like so, Colonial Fiend said the best advice he gave would be to leave a detector at home and bring a probe. I think Tony probably would argue that a little bit.
Well, the only reason I wouldn't do that is because I don't know probing very well. Well, there's two reasons. I've never learned a probe. I do know that it's highly effective for someone that knows how to use it. Um, for me, the best probe I've ever used is on the end of my lower rod of the metal detector. And that became particularly true with GPXs, and then it became even truer with large coils such as the 18-inch. And then the latest tool in my arsenal that has become pretty good at getting really deep targets is that 15-inch super spiral. That's a pretty awesome piece of equipment.
Yeah, and so for a long time you used the monster 18-inch trash can lid from Mine Lab. Unfortunately, with the GPX products, Mine Lab likes to not make their coils waterproof, which is a big pain in the butt for guys like us who don't necessarily have $500 to go out and buy a coil every day.
I I tell you, man, talking about that, I've actually had some pretty good luck with mine. I've gone through some coils, but always seem to be around a dealer, whether it was Van Boone, Don Dodson, Keith Leppert, somebody that could look at the serial number and just say, "Here's a replacement." And I think I spent, I know I bought my first 18-inch coil, commander coil, I think $350, pretty early on, and I think I went through 3 or 4 coils and just got them switched out because of them going bad when they shouldn't have gone bad.
Right.
You know?
But unfortunately, Mine Lab coils tend to have a reputation for that versus that
Yeah,
spiral wound, which is supposed to be completely waterproof.
yeah. I wasn't even aware of the. I actually never had any problems with water with my commander coils, but the yeah, the super spiral. My goodness, somebody said that there's an insane amount of, like, I don't know if it's a mile of wire in that thing, or I don't know. It's a ton of wire in it.
Wow. Wow. And so it's interesting. So there's some guys in the chat room, and they're saying, like, of all of this stuff, what we're talking about tonight, the biggest thing is Bill Southern says learn its secrets. If you've never seen Bill's channel, go check it out. He talks about machines like it's matter of
Yes.
fact. Learn the machine secrets, and always have you'll always have the advantage. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
um, so yeah, it's how long did it take you to pick up the GPX and use it effectively?
Um, Hold on, I got to reply to Jamie here. Um, Length of time. Well, So we'd have to define effectively. I would say to be able to dig bullets and good surface targets, really not that long. Trying to think here when I first started. When I first started using a GPX. I remember it was DIV like 19 or something. Don Eccles was not going to the hunt, and he loaned me his machine, and I think that's when I really started to learn it. I would say 6 months before I got really good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and you used it a considerable amount, right?
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
That's really all I'm going to use unless I'm digging like a yard out here. I mean, if I'm digging a Civil War site, it's almost definitely going to be a camp of some duration, at least enough duration to have trash pits or fire pits. And so if I'm doing that, I've got to get the most depth I can, sweet ground or hot ground, doesn't matter. So I'm going to use the deepest machine I can get my hands on, which is the GPX.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I've moved into hunting with the GPX more so than I ever have. And like, say yesterday, those targets we found yesterday, I think I dug 7 or 8 bullets, a coin. Jamie dug, and I actually have this on video. Jamie dug a coat button that was every bit of 14 or 15 inches deep. And I just walked over just to see what he was digging, and he pops out a beautiful button. But there are exceptions,
Amazing.
but probably 95% of the machines out there would miss those targets.
Oh, totally. That's why they're still there.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
know, and
Absolutely.
that's why the pits are still there. There's the future of relic hunting is pits.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
mean, there's always going to be surface finds, always. But as far as areas where there's known to be Civil War activity, say a well-known camp east of Richmond or something like that, there's a lot of relics there, but they're like 20 inches plus,
Right.
or 6, even 6. That's another thing. We tend to be a little when we measure, when we estimate how deep the hole is that we dug. I hear people all the time talking about back in the day, my Nautilus would dig a button at 24 inches, and good for them if that's true. I just have a hard time believing it because I've seen people measure that like they're measuring something else, and it's just usually it's not the case. So,
Yeah, and I agree. Everybody tends to overestimate what their machines will do. It's
we're all positive thinkers. Think about that. I mean, we're all relic hunters. We're the nature of what we do is positive thinking. So
right.
it,
Eternal
it kind of
optimist.
makes
Yep.
yes,
Absolutely.
yeah,
So
exactly.
let's talk a little bit about the idea of being in a hut, and when you get into a hut, what is your number one action? Like I know from what Bruce has taught me about being in privies, the first thing you want to do is find a wall. Is that the same thing that you're doing with a hut or a pit?
It's different for me. Um, Privies are so much deeper, so that's a little different for me. The first thing I'm going to do is widen the hole. So I'm digging a target, which means my hole is probably going to be about 16 inches around. I'm going to go down to the target if I get to it. If I'm down 16, 18 inches and I'm seeing ash and or glass, then the first thing I'm going to do is make it a 24-inch hole, and the second thing is going to be drill straight down to the floor. And then once I can do that, I'm going to pick a side, probably the most side with the most color or the most relics coming out, and basically take bites, out of that side until I get to a wall.
So explain what you
And then
mean by
just around the
color.
corner.
In a lot of your videos, you hear you say, "Man, I got great color."
Yeah. So we'll take Culpeper as our first example. In Culpeper, if I go to just a random area in Culpeper and I dig down, or Orange County would be the same way, and I dig down, let's say a foot, it's like 90% of the time it's going to be sort of a deep red or orange clay, sometimes even almost a purple, and it's going to be uh, basically the same color throughout. There will be very little color variation aside from rocks. or like roots or something like that. When we talk about color, so let's take a hut, for example. When the soldiers dug out a hut, they're digging out an area that we'll just say is 4 feet by 8 feet and about, let's say, 3 feet deep, or maybe 2 feet. 2 feet is actually more accurate. And so they dug all that out. They're already starting to, at that time, they might drop a couple bullets in it, or maybe a button pops off. Now they build the hut. They live in the hut for 4 months. They're leaving bottles, more bullets. They've got a little fireplace. They're melting bullets. And they would actually use bullets to start fires because they had the wax paper cartridge. And there's gunpowder in those as a quick way to start a fire, much like our, lighter fluid. So with all this stuff just collecting in there over time, especially if it was a messy soldier, you would have a ton of charcoal. It would actually, in some of these huts, they would line the floors with charcoal to cut down on lice. I don't know that really helped. It made them feel better. So when we talk about dirt having color, we're talking about dirt not having its indigenous or original color, which is that normal orange or red clay, but all of a sudden now you're seeing a little tiny piece of black in it that doesn't fit. Like the black's out of place.
Right. So just to simplify that is you're looking for some sort of organic material within natural mineralized soil that's out of place, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And so different examples of color would be mostly the ash is what we look for. You also, a lot of times in huts and trash pits, the soil itself will not be as red as the normal undug soil, next to it. So basically, like if I would go out right now in my yard and I would dig up a 4x8 rectangle, and it would be topsoil and red dirt all mixed together for 2 feet. Well, that soil, if I mixed it well, it's going to actually have a different overall color and consistency than the soil I have not touched. Same thing with huts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what you're really looking for to really kind of solidify that you are in some sort of feature. Now, from my experiences, that's not always the case, especially when you consider Coles Hill, which is this is a big mound. It was a big observation point. Coles Hill seemed to be the anomaly. I watched Jamie dig a hole that was 4.5 foot deep with no color at all, and at the very bottom and hard pack were J-hooks and ration cans, and no reason for anyone to continue to dig that deep.
Where was he at? Was he near the latrine area?
He was.
Yeah. That, you're right when you say that's an anomaly. That's quite unusual. And that happened to so many people in there, including myself. You would dig down, and you may or may not even have signals or glass or color or anything on the way down. That whole area, to me, I've dug that hill several times now, and I think it's just a ton of erosion. I really believe that. You got to figure all the trees and vegetation were gone after they left those camps. And as steep as some of those hills are, you would have had a lot of just unchecked, mud just flowing down those hills. And I kind of think it just covered up a whole camp. I think a lot of what we find at that depth at Coles Hill is just normal camp stuff.
Surface relics.
I think so. I mean, I think occasionally we're actually getting into a pit, but it's underneath 3 or 4 feet of overburden.
So would you explain, the latrine site was there. The same kind of deal, but the latrine obviously was much higher than some of those relics that were at 4 and 5 foot. Even the relics that you dug there, they were at what, that belt plate you found was at 3 feet?
Yeah, it was about 3 feet. I think it all tumbled coming down the hill. I can't explain why all those bottles were in one place. That I'd have to think on that. Like the initial time at Coles Hill, is when they first got into it, and I want to say they dug close to 400 bottles on that first dig.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible.
That's insane.
Absolutely
They
incredible.
found so much stuff at that first dig. I mean, we're talking Virginia buttons with butternut cloth still attached.
Gosh.
Somebody found false teeth. Just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Absolutely amazing, amazing stuff. So we'll fast forward to looking forward to the upcoming hunts. You're going to both?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you looking for most? So the two sites we're going are the Excelsior Camp, which will be the second hunt, which was almost solely New York troops, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding. They got issued some special uniforms, which makes that a little more interesting.
Yeah. So, and that's also on a hillside observation kind of area, but they threw a lot of trash down the hill, or in the same case, maybe eroded down the hill.
Oh, Matt, you still there?
Yeah, we're still here. We got a little technical. There we go. That's all right.
Kidding.
Oh, now we got a little freeze up. That's all right. Tony will come back, but it this is kind of, as always, the the deal with live streaming. We're gonna pull them up over here on the side and see how this goes. When we talk about, hey Jason, we'll roll through who's here. Frankie Bushong's here. Jason the Quarter Hoarder's here. My good friend the Nugget Shooter, Drum Detect, Iffy Signals. Man, we have 44 here hanging out in the chat this evening. A little PSA. I hope everybody got out and Adventures in Dirt's here. I missed him earlier. Hope everybody got out and voted today. It is one of those things. Let's see if we'll knock this off. There we go. We're back in the Relic room here. This is the benefits and difficulties of live streaming. Plugmaster Ford for president. If we did that, we would all be in trouble. Everyone would be required to have a bear trapping license and 12 kids. So it says, I do have a 4500 sharp normal. Does anybody... So Bama Dave has a 4500. Do I hunt sharp or normal? And what he's talking about is the mineral timings. I actually hunt special most of the time. So it is absolutely my way to go. I use the same signals or the same settings for my GPX 4500 for everything. So, man, that right. Oh, all right. So here, I'll give you guys a little bit of a tour of the Relic room while we're waiting for Tony. I got some lights in the background. My buddy Jamie helped me hang this right here, and then we got some new stuff going on. I'm going to get myself a kind of stand for some artillery shells and stuff like that. But anyway, this Diggin Virginia season, normally it's a little earlier this time than this time of the year. It is a great time. It's a fantastic organized hunt. There's Tony back. I know it would just take a second.
This time than this time of the year.
There you go. He is. Let's see if he's got. There you go. Cool. Right.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
This is working now. I couldn't get my computer to work. Hey, quick question. Can you see my entire face?
You need to slide just a little bit to your right.
To my right.
There you go, right there.
How about I do? Hang on, let me get situated.
That light in the back is kind of hot. There you go. Now move. Yeah, perfect. There you go. Hey, look, we got rid of Adventures in Dirt says, hey, when do they start doing the drawing for the spring hunts usually? So we'll talk about the sign up process real quick. So it's considered an invitational hunt through mytreasurespot.com. It's a forum. It is a great way to meet new people, but you need to be a forum member and you need to watch for the spring signups. There's generally a spring hunt and a fall hunt of each year, and then I will actually say it's a pretty tedious process to get set up to go, but once you figure it out, you are generally pretty good. Your big white halo's back, Tony. There you go.
Yeah, I see that. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of it. There we go.
You had it.
And now I'm going this way.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Cool.
So it is a great way to go out and meet a lot of new people. And so let's talk about, like, for me now, a lot of DIV is social.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
You know, there's
That's
so
how I got
many
into
cool
it.
people from everywhere. It is a lot of fun. You meet guys from. I met Will from California, Will Johnson. You ever met? Great guy. You know, there are folks that travel all over the country just to come to Diggin in Virginia, and it's a really neat time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've met some of my closest friends I've met at DIV.
Yeah, there really is a sense of fellowship and belonging. People help each other there. They stop. They take time. They talk to each other. There's lunch at the end, and then every night there's a lot of folks that hang out, have drinks, and it's just it's a blast, man. I love it.
And it's cool to see what other people find, and seeing what other people find is motivating, and getting a new game plan for the next day. That's just so much fun.
Yeah, and then so you have the Diggin in Virginia official Facebook group, so you can see throughout the day. Even though I try to keep my phone away, sometimes it's difficult. If you're having a bad day, you pull the site up and you'll see a bunch of different relics, and you go, okay, it's here. I just got to go find them.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
that's right on.
You know, so fast forwarding, we're kind of closing in on an hour. Fast forwarding, what site are you most excited about hunting? Either Beauregard or the Excelsior?
Beauregard, due to size and there being so many camps on that property. I mean, if I had to take a guess, I know where several of them are, but if I was guessing, I'd say there's probably a dozen camps, and I'm talking, 800 to 1,000 guys. 800 to 1,000 guys in one camp.
Yeah. Lots of trash.
And there might be more than
lots of
tons, literally tons. Yeah.
My one goal is to get a bottle out of a camp off of Beauregard. So that's the one thing I want to do. I've been lucky enough. I found a Jamaica Gingers bottle at Rat Tree, which is literally right across the street in a very shallow hut. But I would love to find a whiskey, or my bucket list bottle is a pickle bottle.
Nice. Oh yeah, totally.
So Mental Metal will be there. He said he wants to find a flipping plate. I don't know what the flipping part is, but I think that's probably what he would be doing in the field if he found one. So
I tell you what, we found one of the things that was found at Beauregard that was most notable was the coin cache. That's on YouTube live. I mean, they got the whole thing on YouTube.
Yeah, so if you guys go and look up Mark Science, he's another great, excellent GPX dude. He's sharp as a tack with that thing, and he's got a live video of a breastplate with 2 or 3 gold dollars, a 5 and a 2.5.
He had there was a $20 gold piece, a 5, a 2.5, and then there was like 10 silver half dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's out there to find. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw another one of those caches come out.
And the guy that found that was using a TDI. The signal that got him in was a little piece of camp lit up high, and he checked the hole. Boom.
Absolutely unreal. You know, that's how this stuff goes. It's one signal could be the find of a lifetime at any of these hunts. And I think that's why so many people go back year after year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Beauregard is just slam loaded. I mean, the other places too. Excelsior is also, but Beauregard has just so many camps. I mean, we're talking the maps that they posted. I can't remember which map is which, but the one map they're showing, of course, the page you're looking at is the same size, but when you compare it with Google Maps, it's like a couple miles across. It's probably 2,000 acres just in that one section.
Yeah, it's more than a lifetime you could hunt, and then you're looking at, and it's a much smaller group of folks going this year.
Mm-hmm.
So
how many is that?
I think it's 250.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that
so
would be
when
nice.
you take a smaller group, a bigger area, and you spread those machines out, now you have decreased interference between machines. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's really where the machine shines and allows you to hear the really deep stuff.
I tell you, talking about hunting around a lot of people or not a lot of people, one of the things, sometimes it can get discouraging if the guy next to you is digging, his 10th button of the day, and you're still, you've got a button back and a bunch of nails. If you ever start to get discouraged at one of these hunts, just stop, turn your detector off, sit down, look out over the hill or wherever you are, and just imagine in your mind's eye that it was just covered with huts, and there was, the soldiers were, maybe they were playing music or eating or playing ball, which they did. It talks about them playing games in those camps. If you imagine that, it does something to your psyche when, as far as being able to have a good attitude about digging.
Yeah.
And it changes the way you dig.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And it's it'll pick you up and make you want to keep going again.
Yeah.
So it's old Ron R is here as well. That rascal.
Is he on YouTube? I can't pull up YouTube right now.
He is on YouTube with us right now. So, but very cool, and I think that's a good way to knock the end off the show. It is easy to get out in this kind of environment, and you feel like there's some sort of pressure where you need to find something, but that pressure is only an internal pressure that you created.
Another quick. Talking about that kind of thing and the attitude is huge because it changes everything about the hunt. If you're not finding much and you're starting to get discouraged and you're talking to somebody else, just talking to someone else will help. It'll make a huge difference. But another thing that's sort of ironic, but it really makes a difference, is congratulate that person on what they found. It's like it sort of releases something, I don't know. It's spiritual, or I don't know what it is, but it's just really good. It's a great pattern for success, and just being able to say, "Yep, it's here. It's just deeper," or it's in a different place, or I have to go slower.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a good way to close this out. It's going to be a lot of fun for those who are watching later or here in the chat. I do hope that everybody gets a chance to attend some sort of organized relic hunt, whether it's a seated hunt or somewhere like Diggin in Virginia where you're hunting a winter camp, or any of the other numerous ones that have popped up over the last year, because you truly will get to meet people that will become lifelong friendships. And it really expands this hobby so much more than the item you pull out of the ground. Even though I cherish all of those things as well, I think they're very cool. But what you build with the other people that you go with far exceeds any button or bullet you ever may pick up.
Yeah.
Yep. So I would like to say first for me, thanks for coming on the show this evening.
Absolutely, man.
It's been a blast, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope.
Yeah.
I've got my fingers crossed. We may have we will be having a baby. It maybe next week.
Oh. You may have an extra relic you weren't anticipating.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the biggest treasure I'll ever find.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Dude, Andy, thanks so much for the super chat. That is absolutely awesome.
Motivation.
Show him that little piece of a heart.
Actually, it's a
clover.
It fell down in the display case, so it looks kind of funny, but that's a 3-leaf clover. It's a second core badge. Made out of lead.
Yeah, they do. So that's just one idea of some of the things that you could be finding here in the in one of these organized hunts.
Yep.
Absolutely blast. I'm going to slide you off to the side for a second here, and we're going to close this thing out. So again, thank you so much. And we will see you in a week.
Yep, sounds great, man. Can't wait.
Thanks, buddy.
I'll see you, man.
So as always, guys, thanks for coming in and checking out the stream this evening with Tony. So if you're looking for more information on digging in Virginia, be sure to go over to mytreasurespot.com. There's a whole forum just on digging in Virginia. Check them out on Facebook, Digging in Virginia, the official group. Absolutely great bunch of guys and gals over there. It was a lot. It's a lot of knowledge and a lot of information. It is super, super cool. I'd like to thank Andy from We Dig Metal Detecting for the super chat this evening. That's absolutely fantastic. That will probably buy me some diapers, and I appreciate that, Andy. Make sure you guys go over and check out his live stream he does on Facebook. Mental Metal was kind enough to drop my treasure spot down in the comments there. As always, if you have any questions and you're on Facebook, you can go over to Gone Diggin' on Facebook and join the group, ask some questions. If I don't get to them tonight, I would love to get in there. Frankie, man, I had to do your contest at the beginning of the show, so you will have to do the replay. Thanks again to Frankie for Virginia Diggers contest, the Z-Link giveaway. The winning number was 3134. Absolutely awesome. And I'm not sure if anybody found a winner or not. To all those traveling to Diggin' in Virginia or any of the organized relic hunting events coming up in the near future, I hope you travel safe. I hope you have a great time. Meet new friends. Find something cool. But above all, just have fun. Again, thank you. Thank you so much for joining Gone Diggin' this evening. And I hope everyone has a great weekend, week relic hunting. New video on Thursday. Tuesday, we will be live from Peppers. Peppers is in the Best Western and Culpeper, Virginia, and we will be streaming straight from Diggin' in Virginia at a social event. So it'll be a lot of fun. Fingers crossed that it is family friendly. I'm going to try to do my best to make sure, but there will be general public there. So I hope everyone again has a great evening, and thanks for watching Gone Diggin'. We'll see you next time.